We'll start with the most basic question. How did people date events before the advent of the Anno Domini system, the before and after Christ? There were three main methods that ancient civilizations used to refer to years. The first was the simplest and oldest, referencing a specific, impactful event. For example, a community might say, such and such happened in the year of the great military conquest, or in the year of the great drought, or in the year the temple was founded. Those who shared this collective memory could easily understand the timeline, but this system was very local and lacked standardization. A war, a good harvest, or a famine are not things that can be used universally. It's not a very efficient way to create a long-term, stable chronology. This led to a second, more effective method, dating years by associating them with a ruler or a government. This could be an annual position, like the archons in Athens or the consuls in Rome. By maintaining a list of these officials, a continuous chronology could be established. For example, you would have the year of Archon A, followed by the year of Archon B, and so on. This system provided an ordered sequence because each ruler typically served for 1 year, or a longer period, such as a king's reign. We see this in the Bible, where a passage might state, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, or in the New Testament, in the 15th year of the reign of Tiberius Caesar. This method had a wider geographical reach. If you mentioned the 15th year of Tiberius Caesar's reign, people across the Roman Empire, from Palestine to Egypt to Italy, would understand exactly which year you were referring to. But even a king's reign eventually ends, which leads us to the third and most enduring method of marking time, eras. An era is a long, continuous, uninterrupted period of time that begins at a specific, important starting point and is counted without a foreseen end. For instance, the Greeks used the first Olympic Games as the starting point for their era. The first games took place in 776 BC, and their calendar would count the first year of the first Olympiad, followed by the second, third, and fourth years, then the first year of the second Olympiad, and so on. This allowed historians like Thucydides to reference an event happening in the first year of the 87th Olympiad. This system provided a long-term framework for organizing historical events. Another example is the Hijri calendar, still used by Muslims today, which dates back to the Hijra, the migration of the Prophet Muhammad from Mecca to Medina. The Jewish people also historically used an era-based system, one that began with the creation of the world. Adam would have lived in the year 1 of creation, and Abraham around the year 2001. This system, starting in what we would call 3761 BC, was calculated by ancient Jewish scholars based on the ages of the patriarchs mentioned in the Hebrew Bible. This same method was also adopted by early Christians, though their calculations for the year of creation differed. Eusebius of Caesarea, for example, estimated creation to be around 5200 BC. Even famous figures like Isaac Newton calculated it, arriving at 3998 BC. And the influential Bishop James Ussher concluded that creation began in 4004 BC. This date became widely known because it was printed alongside the King James Bible and is still found in some Bibles today. Of course, the most familiar era to us is the Christian one, which has the life of Christ as its starting point. This brings us to the second and more complex part of our story, the creation of the BC/AD system itself. It's a common misconception that Jesus' birth instantly divided history, as if his arrival caused everyone to immediately switch calendars. This is far from the truth. As we can see in the New Testament itself, authors like Luke didn't use a BC/AD system to date events. Instead, they used the more conventional regnal years, saying things like, in the 15th year of the reign of Tiberius Caesar. This system of dating by emperors' reigns would remain dominant for centuries. Early Christian scholars, such as Eusebius of Caesarea, were more concerned with integrating historical events into a single timeline, and they often used other dating methods like the Anno Mundi, year of the world, or the Olympic eras. The BC/AD system only began to take shape slowly, starting in the 6th century. A monk named Dionysius Exiguus was working on tables to calculate the date of Easter, a task with profound religious motivation. Back then, the most common calendar was the Alexandrian, which started with the reign of Emperor Diocletian. But Dionysius had a problem with this. Diocletian had been a fierce persecutor of Christians, and Dionysius felt it was inappropriate to base a Christian calendar on him. So, he proposed a new starting point, the year of the incarnation of Christ. He calculated this to be the year 1, a seemingly minor detail within his complex Easter tables. But this idea was picked up by other monks, particularly the Venerable Bede in 8th century England. Unlike Dionysius, Bede was a historian, and he started using the Anno Domini, Year of the Lord, system to structure his long-form historical writing. Over the next centuries, his work inspired others to adopt this Christian era as a standard. The real turning point came with the invention of the printing press in the 15th century, which led to a push for standardization in many areas, including dating. The BC/AD system became increasingly common, and by the 16th century, the Council of Trent and the Gregorian calendar reform further cemented its status as the preferred method of dating. So, it took over 1,500 years for this system to become widely accepted. This brings us to a crucial question: was Dionysius's calculation of the year 1 correct? This is a matter of great historical controversy, with ancient sources themselves disagreeing. Tertullian of Carthage, for example, calculated that Jesus was born 52 years before the fall of the Jerusalem Temple in 70 AD, which would place his birth in 18 AD. Clement of Alexandria provided an even more precise date, saying Jesus was born 194 years, 1 month, and 13 days before the death of Emperor Commodus on December 31, 192 AD, placing the birth in 3 BC. Eusebius of Caesarea claimed Jesus was born in the 3rd year of the 194th Olympiad, or in the Anno Mundi year 5199, both of which correspond to what we call 2 BC. Yes, he claimed Jesus was born 2 years before Christ. There's even a calculation from Alexandrian astronomers that put Jesus' birth on December 25th in the year 8 AD, a date still used by the Ethiopian calendar, which is currently in the year 2015. But who was right? It's almost impossible to say for sure, because even our earliest sources, the Gospels of Matthew and Luke, contain discrepancies. Matthew's Gospel implies Jesus was born before the death of King Herod the Great, which modern historians date to 4 BC. Luke's Gospel, however, places Jesus' birth during a census conducted by Quirinius, a census that happened in 6 AD. So, did Jesus really get born in 4 BC, or 6 AD? We don't know, but it's highly unlikely he was born in the year 1. As Dionysius calculated. The imprecision of the BC/AD system is a major reason why some modern scholars have proposed a new, alternative chronology, the Common Era. You've probably encountered this alternative system, where historical events are dated as before the Common Era, BCE, and Common Era, CE. The main motivation behind this change is to neutralize the religious connotations of before Christ and Anno Domini, as well as to address the historical imprecision. This isn't a new idea. The Soviet Union, an atheist state, preferred the term of our era over after Christ. Similarly, Communist China adopted the Common Era in 1949 because it felt strange for a non-Christian country to use a dating system centered around Christ. However, the Gregorian calendar, with its BC/AD dating, was already so widespread and so practical for international relations and commerce that many non-Christian countries adopted it anyway. This led to discomfort for some who didn't identify with the religious basis of the calendar. It's for this reason that Jewish scholars also propose the Common Era, because they don't consider Jesus as the Christ or the Lord, making the terms before Christ and Anno Domini unsuitable for them. Modern historians have also increasingly used BCE/CE, especially when discussing ancient history of regions like Syria, China, or India, where dating events based on the incarnation of Jesus is completely irrelevant. This change is meant to provide a certain neutrality. But is it really neutral? As a historian, I personally find the Common Era system somewhat flawed. What is the starting point of this Common Era? It's still the incarnation of Christ, based on Dionysius's flawed calculation. The religious marker is still there. It's just camouflaged under a term that is, in itself, meaningless. Common to whom? What defines this era? The lack of a clear, non-religious starting point makes it a bit of a lame duck solution, as some might say. Personally, on this channel, I stick to the more conventional and communicative BC/AD system, while in my academic work, I use BCE/CE because it's the current convention in modern historiography, especially when dealing with ancient history. But I'm always open to changing my mind. What do you think about this issue? I hope you enjoyed this journey through the history of how we tell time, and that you've learned something new and interesting. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Mystic Codex for more fascinating stories, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive into the mysteries of our world. What other historical topics would you like us to explore next? Let us know in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.